Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming. I am the majestic Snare and this is my disembodied voice prattling on about Warframe again. And I wanted to spend a few moments discussing Warframe, and in particular Warframe's Railjack. How many times can I say Warframe in a sentence? About that many. So we are coming to a point today where Railjack and Empyrean has been out for a couple of weeks. I say, well, more than a couple of weeks, but enough time for 101 YouTubers and their dog who cover Warframe to have their 10 cents on what they think about Warframe, or Railjack, sorry, and what their big beefs are. So I'm not going to go into the whole mechanics of how Railjack is put together, because I don't think you need that in a video. Today I want to kind of look at where it's at and what we can do to fix it, because I've been waiting for this mode for so long, and I've made that clear in previous videos. But I want to have a moment to sit back and go, right, well, what are the problems and how can we fix them? Not individually, because I'm certainly not a coder myself, and I'm not going to tell DE how to code and fix the problems, because I wouldn't know the first thing on how. But I want to give my suggestions in terms of the experience, because they need to do something about it. The fact that they haven't yet is quite disappointing, and I'll be quite true, I will call them out on that. What they did and how they did it was a little bit embarrassing for them. I think they're going to have to do a lot to come back from it. Personally, they effectively dropped something that everyone was screaming for, and I was screaming for it too. I'm part of the problem as well as trying to be part of the solution here. But I was screaming for it as much as anyone else. I wanted Railjack. I wanted to be playing Space Pirates, Space Ninja Pirates. But at the end of the day, they released this in a state that it wasn't ready. I don't know how they could have play tested this with anyone and not experienced some of the problems that I think a majority of players have had. So that being said, I think we need to just cover a couple of points, but I think the main problems come down to two elements. The first one is just a balance, of enemies and damage, and all the kind of the roles of what you're going to do to enemies and what they can do to you and how much they can take. I think the bullet spongy, massive health bar system is just a bit unfair, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be balanced all the way through, but I mean certainly in the first area I think that's probably okay in Earth Proxima, but as you go through and hit the Veil, you're fighting so many enemies and it's taking so long to kill them all, unless you have top of the range gear, and that's just not something that should be the case. I think if you're going to be grinding, you want to get to a point where you can grind comfortably, and I don't necessarily think it's about trying to do things solo. Even in a 4-man crew, it can be quite time consuming to do some of this stuff, which is a bit of a problem in my eyes anyway. So the other part is the economy and the amount of things that you need to put in to fix it, and it's pointing a lot of people at the market to go and buy what they call rush drones to repair things just instantly. It's pointing people to be able to pay to win or pay to save time. I didn't think DE was like that, so they need to look at that very, very carefully, because that economy is so important in maintaining the reputation that Warframe has as a free-to-play game, which it is. But if you're going to have a system that's going to promote you to spend money over playing the game, that's just always going to be a bad taste in anyone's mouth. When it comes to loot boxes and microtransactions, you don't want that in your space, and they know better than that. They're the people that have kind of done this whole free-to-play thing better than anyone I know of, with the options to support them with cosmetics and stuff like that. But this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't. So the other issue is that the same mission seems to be, the skirmish is all 20 plus missions, and it's all very samey. There's slight changes in the off crew kind of away team element, and the anomaly, which was fantastic to be fair. It gives you the error quest, and it's a bit more lore for the future. Won't go into that, spoilers. But it's definitely something that gives you a bit of lore to mull over. I just don't think the variation in the missions is enough yet, and I really hope this is a stepping stone and not just something that's going to be pummeled together and this is it. You've asked for Railjack, have it, shut up, stop moaning, there you go. Because I think it's generally a very mixed reception, and I'm erring on the kind of bit of a fence really. I think the base mechanics is good. The idea of getting into a ship with your mates and dealing with your kind of Sea of Thieves, Star Trek bridge crew element of things, I think it's brilliant. However, it just needs that TLC, it needs to polish to get it working correctly. So sort out the numbers, sort out the damages and the bullet spongy elements of Railjack. Sort out the game-breaking bugs when ships don't, appear and things like that. The stuff that really causes an issue when you've invested a number of minutes. It might be up to like half an hour of doing a mission because everything takes so long to kill, and then a bug happens and stops you being able to complete the mission, whatever. It's just frustrating. Simple things like that, and look at that economy, look at the amount of resources needed to do things, or how easy it is to get hold of those resources. Please make some improvements there, because I don't think people are going to last long if they're having to do a mission and then spare 15 minutes hoovering up stuff in the environment, and then while you're trying to hoover things up, somebody wants to leave, somebody wants to go into the next mission. As a random group, random squad, it gets a little bit tedious and a little bit frustrating. So there's elements in quality of life stuff there that you do really need to look at. So as I said, the Arrow mission is quite interesting. It does set up things for the future. The other point to just quote on is the randomness that's involved. It does feel a little bit cheap. Whenever there's a layer of RNG on top of another layer of RNG, I generally don't like that, because what that's doing is it's taking away from the original. My admiration for Warframe was you spend 10 minutes to do something in Warframe and you spend 10 hours to do something in Warframe. Those things will both reap rewards for you in a progressive way, and Railjack doesn't do that, or any position where you have the double layer of or more of RNG, it starts to become less and less, and you're aiming for a point rather than aiming for a journey, and they should be looking at aiming for a journey. Do you get what I'm saying? So in the Railjack experience, you have the chance to pick up a certain avionic or a certain piece of kit, and when you get that piece of kit, after it dropping randomly, you also have the stats that get rolled randomly. So you might get your 2% drop in a mission to only find that it's rubbish. How does that work? How is that fun? When you're like, oh, I've got this thing, oh, it's shit. I've spent 100 missions trying to get this thing, and I've got one and it's not as good as my mate Jake's over there, who's managed to get something else that's awesome, or the same thing that's awesome. That's even worse. So keep that in mind. I think the RNG has to be thought out a little bit more, and just give us the ability to work with those avionics, because unless you have the capacity, you can't put the stuff in, you can't rank it up, you have to choose which mod you do. I don't know if the system's in the most optimum setup, so maybe it's a case of you can't have everything, you have to choose, but at the moment you want as much survivability as you can get, because you can't survive in those later missions if you don't have all of the top gear on your ship, and it's just driving me insane. So apologies for going off on a rant, but those kind of elements do need to be looked at. And I will say one thing, I don't know if I've actually mentioned it already, because my mind's going a bit blank, having done this so many times now, trying to get the one take. But building the Railjack was a lot more fun for me, and that's always going to be the case until they make some of these changes. Now, I don't think that Railjack is a complete dead horse. I think it has so much potential, but in its current state, it doesn't feel like the hype I gave it has been rewarded. I feel it's been rushed out. I feel it's not fulfilling my boyhood dream of having a spaceship. It's definitely not giving me the enjoyment I wanted Railjack to be providing, and that sounds really entitled, but I have to remember this is a free-to-play game. But I also have to remember that they dropped this, did a few hot fixes, and then took the time off over the holidays. Everyone needs time off, I get that, but they should have waited and maybe dropped this in January when it was ready, because they should have been playtesting this. Doesn't feel like they did. So I know that some of you guys won't enjoy the negative aspects of talking about Warframe this way, but I still feel that there's a positive out of this, and that is that the core principle of Railjack and the Empyrean stuff, it's there. It just needs more to it to make it fucking amazing, or even just a good experience at the moment. There's lots of aspects that I think could be improved upon, but at a very basic level, this is a good mechanic. It's a good addition to the Warframe experience, but not in its current state. So hence the title of the video is Railjack, what's going on? Talk to me. So guys, I hope you found that interesting. It is a little bit of a brain dump, and I don't think this is the last video I'll do on Railjack. Might do another one in a few weeks or months time when some of those fixes have been made, once they've ironed out a few of these kinks. But you know, if you're in the middle of building a Railjack, or you're getting involved in Railjack missions, or you're even looking at this video to say, okay, what's all this Railjack about, then I wish you all the best, because it can be fun at times, and the first experience of flying around in your Railjack and doing a mission, it does feel good. But in order for you to have that experience, the full experience, a lot of work is needed on DE's part. So that's where I'll leave it. I won't go on too much. Suffice to say, please sort out the RNG, please sort out the economy, and please sort out the damage on the enemies and mission types. I could have just said that at the start and left it there. So guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have liked what you've been listening to here today, please like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share with your nan. She'd love to hear about Railjack. And I hope that to see you again soon. We have videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday, so check back then for some awesome content. But until then, take care, fly safe, and I'll see you on the flip side. So take care of yourselves. Okay, love you. Bye-bye.